My friends, there is a power that heaven has poured into the church, and it is waiting to be unlocked by your tongue. It is not the power of man, nor the wisdom of the world, but the living breath of God bursting forth in heavenly language. When you speak in tongues, chains break, faith rises, the Spirit moves, and your very soul is set ablaze with the fire of God. Tonight, I will show you why this gift changes everything: your prayer life, your walk with God, and your victory in this world. My beloved, there is something marvelous, something supernatural, something utterly divine about this gift of tongues. It is not a trick of man, nor an invention of human religion. It is heaven's own gift, God's own breath flowing through your lips. When you begin to speak in tongues, you step beyond the limitations of your mind, beyond the frailty of your natural understanding, and you enter into the very atmosphere of glory. It is the Spirit Himself praying through you, lifting you into communion with the Father in a way no earthly words could ever achieve. Think for a moment of the disciples in that upper room. They had been told to wait for power, and though they had walked with Jesus, though they had seen the miracles and even handled His risen body, they still had no strength to carry out the mission. They were waiting, praying, hungry, and when the Spirit came, He did not come with mere feelings or emotions. He came with tongues of fire, and they began to speak in languages unknown to them. This was heaven's direct sign that a new day had dawned. God was declaring, "I will not let you speak only from the weakness of your flesh. I will give you my voice, my utterance, my language." When you pray in your own words, you often stumble. You pray according to what you know, what you feel, and what you can understand. But your mind is limited, your understanding is narrow. You pray for what seems right in your sight. But God sees the end from the beginning, the depths of the heart, the unseen battles raging in the heavenly places. And when you yield your tongue to the Spirit, when you surrender that small member of your body to His control, suddenly your prayer is no longer a product of your thoughts. It is the Spirit Himself speaking mysteries to God. It is the highest, purest, most perfect form of prayer, because it is prayer birthed not from man, but from God Himself. This is why the enemy fears tongues so greatly. He cannot understand it, he cannot intercept it, he cannot twist it. Every time you speak in tongues, you are sending direct communication to heaven's throne room, bypassing the interference of darkness. It is a hotline to God, an unbreakable connection between your spirit and His. The devil trembles when a believer begins to speak in tongues, for he knows the authority being exercised is not human but divine. I tell you, there is nothing that will strengthen your inner man like this gift. There are times when words fail you, when your heart is too heavy, when you do not know how to pray. There are moments when grief or confusion or the sheer weight of life presses upon you, and in those moments, tongues rises up. Out of your belly flows rivers of living water, prayers you cannot form in your mind, but that your spirit groans before God. And you will find peace, you will find release. You will find a sense that heaven has heard and answered even before you understand what has been spoken. I have seen lives changed, prayers answered, miracles released because men and women gave themselves to this gift. They were no longer bound by the cage of intellect, no longer trapped in the prison of their own language. They tapped into the Spirit's flow, and heaven's will was carried out through their mouths. It is no wonder that Paul declared, "I thank God I speak in tongues more than you all," for he knew the secret. This was his lifeline, his source of power, his way of staying in constant fellowship with God. Do not treat this gift as a small thing. Do not relegate it to a corner of your faith. It is not an ornament, it is not an option, it is the very breath of God surging through your being. It is the Spirit of the living God using your tongue as His instrument. And I declare to you tonight, when you understand that tongues is heaven's direct line, you will never again pray the same way. You will step into a higher dimension of communion with God, a place where every barrier is broken and every word is Spirit-born. This gift is not for a select few, it is for you. The Father longs to fill you, the Spirit longs to speak through you, and heaven longs to hear the sound of your surrendered voice. Open your heart, open your mouth, and let the Spirit give you utterance. For when you speak in tongues, you speak to God Himself. There are moments, beloved, when your strength is gone. Times when your body is weary, your mind is overwhelmed, and your spirit feels crushed under the weight of life. You look for words to pray, but they fail you. You reach for faith, but it feels weak in your hand. You bow your head to speak to God, yet all that comes out are sighs and groanings. Have you ever been there? That place where your natural strength is utterly spent. It is in that very place that God has given us a gift so glorious, so powerful, that it takes hold where our weakness begins. That gift is the language of the Spirit, speaking in tongues. When you pray in tongues, you are not praying out of your frailty. You are not leaning on your exhausted mind or your tired body. You are allowing the Spirit of God Himself to rise up within you, to take your weakness and exchange it for His strength. The Scripture declares that the Spirit helps our infirmities, for we do not know what to pray for as we ought. And yet, with groanings too deep for words, the Spirit Himself intercedes through us. This is the very essence of tongues. It is not man striving in weakness, it is God interceding in power. So many times people say, I don't feel strong enough to pray. But this is the mystery. You were never meant to rely on your own strength. When you are weak, He is strong. When you are empty, He is full. And when your words fall silent, His language begins to flow. Speaking in tongues is the Spirit lending you His voice. It is heaven praying through earth. It is divine strength breaking into human frailty. And when that happens, your weakness becomes the very place where God's power is made perfect. I recall times when I faced battles I could not fight in my own strength. The weight was too much, the night too dark, and no words could capture the cry of my soul. But when I yielded to the Spirit, when I opened my mouth and allowed tongues to flow, it was as though the heavens themselves moved on my behalf. The heaviness lifted, the strength returned, the faith surged, not because I found better words, but because I let His Spirit pray through me. Oh, what a transformation it is when God Himself takes over your prayers. This is why the enemy does everything he can to keep you silent. He knows that when you are weary, you are vulnerable. He knows that in your weakness, you may feel defeated. But the moment you turn to the Spirit, the moment you allow tongues to rise up from within you, you tap into strength that is not your own. Suddenly the battle shifts. The weakness that threatened to break you becomes the doorway for God's mighty power to manifest. Some of you here have been carrying burdens for years. You've tried to reason your way through them. You've tried to pray your way through them in your own words, but the weight remains. Tonight, I tell you, yield to the Spirit, let the tongues flow. It will not be your wisdom that lifts the load, but His. It will not be your strength that carries you through, but His. And when His strength comes, you will rise like an eagle. You will run and not be weary. You will walk and not faint. Tongues is more than a language, it is a lifeline. It is God reaching into the depth of your weakness and pulling you into His strength. It is heaven taking over earth's limitations. You may say, but I don't feel strong. I don't feel worthy. I don't even know what to pray. That is the beauty of it. You don't have to. All you must do is yield your tongue, yield your heart, and let the Spirit pray through you. He knows the battles you cannot see. He knows the answers you cannot find. He knows the strength you cannot muster. And He will supply it all as you let Him speak. Never again believe the lie that you are powerless. Never again accept the idea that your weakness disqualifies you. No, beloved, your weakness is the very stage where God displays His strength. And when you pray in tongues, when you let the Spirit take over, you will discover that what once weighed you down becomes the very place where heaven lifts you up. For when you are weak, and the Spirit intercedes through tongues, you are strong with the strength of God. Faith, my friends, is not something you can manufacture with your own will. Faith is not a matter of positive thinking, nor is it the product of your natural strength. Faith is born of the Spirit, breathed into the heart by God Himself. And when you pray in tongues, you are stirring that faith, fanning it into flame, and setting it ablaze with divine fire. There is something about tongues that ignites faith in a way nothing else can, because it takes you beyond the realm of human reasoning and places you in the current of God's Spirit. Many struggle with doubt. They believe, but at the same time, their minds are flooded with questions. They want to trust God fully, but their thoughts keep pulling them back to fear. And so they try to convince themselves, they try to talk themselves into faith, yet it never seems to last. But tongues bypasses the mind. Tongues bypasses the natural reasoning that so often gets in the way. When you pray in tongues, your spirit is communing directly with God, and the faith of the Spirit begins to flood your inner man. Suddenly, the doubts grow dim, the fears lose their grip, and a holy boldness begins to rise within you. I have seen timid believers transformed into warriors of faith, not because they studied harder, not because they gathered more knowledge, but because they gave themselves to praying in tongues. It is impossible to spend time in the Spirit's language and not come away burning with faith. Why? Because tongues is a faith exercise in itself. Every time you open your mouth to speak in tongues, you are stepping out beyond your own understanding. You are yielding to the unseen, trusting the Spirit to give utterance. It is faith in action, and faith in action produces more faith. There is something beautiful about the way tongues builds you up. The word declares that when a man speaks in an unknown tongue, he edifies himself. That word means to build, to strengthen, to construct. Just as a builder lays brick upon brick until a house stands firm, so the Spirit lays faith upon faith within you as you speak in tongues. You may begin feeling small, weak, unsure, but after praying in the Spirit, you stand tall, your heart ablaze with confidence in God. It is not self-confidence but God-confidence. It is the assurance that the Almighty is with you, that His promises are true, and that nothing is impossible when you believe. And what a weapon this is against the enemy. The devil works through fear. He whispers lies to keep you bound, to keep you timid, to keep you silent. But when you speak in tongues, faith begins to roar within you, and fear has no place to stand. Doubt flees, anxiety breaks. Fear melts like wax before the fire of the Spirit. You find yourself speaking with authority, declaring the word with boldness, and stepping into places you once trembled to walk. Tongues will not only lift your faith, it will propel you into action. There are times when you pray in tongues and suddenly faith rises so strong that you know in your spirit the answer is already yours. You do not hope for it, you know it. You do not wonder if it will come, you declare it as done. That is the work of the Spirit. He stirs such assurance within you that you cannot be moved. And when faith of that kind grips your soul, miracles happen, doors open, chains fall, mountains move. Oh, beloved, do not neglect this gift. Faith comes by hearing the word yes, but it is built, it is stirred, it is set ablaze through tongues. Some of you wonder why your faith feels weak, why you struggle to believe for greater things. The answer is not always to think harder, but to yield more deeply. Open your mouth, let the Spirit flow, and watch as your faith comes alive. It is faith that no devil can shake, no trial can quench, and no darkness can overcome. For when you pray in tongues, your faith is not only stirred, it is ignited into holy fire. There are treasures hidden in God that the natural mind cannot uncover. There are mysteries deep and unsearchable that no human reasoning can reach, no intellect can grasp, and no philosophy can explain. The Spirit of God is the revealer of these mysteries, and one of the greatest ways He unlocks them is through tongues. When you yield your tongue to the Spirit, you are stepping into a realm of revelation where secrets of heaven are made known and where breakthroughs are birthed in your life. You see, when you pray with your understanding, you are limited to what you know. You can pray for what you see, what you feel, what you comprehend. But how often do we not even know what we need? How often do we cry out for solutions when the real answer lies in a place we cannot even imagine? This is where tongues becomes a divine gift beyond measure. When you speak in tongues, you are praying the will of God, not the assumptions of your own mind. You are touching mysteries, things hidden from your eyes but fully known to the Spirit. And as you continue, the Spirit begins to make those mysteries clear, bringing light where there was once only confusion. I have seen men and women wrestle with decisions, struggling between choices, unsure of the path before them. They reason, they seek counsel, they weigh the pros and cons, yet no peace comes. But then they give themselves to prayer in tongues, hours in the Spirit, allowing Him to pray through them, and suddenly the fog lifts. Suddenly clarity breaks in. Suddenly the right step becomes undeniable. That is revelation. God speaking, God guiding, God unveiling His perfect will. Breakthrough often comes the same way. There are times when strongholds seem unmovable, when you pray and fast and press with all your might, yet the wall remains. But as you begin to speak in tongues, you are no longer fighting with natural weapons. You are speaking heaven's strategies into the earth. The Spirit is interceding for you, dismantling the unseen barriers, and giving you divine keys to victory. Then one day, without even realizing when or how, the wall crumbles, the door opens, the miracle arrives. That is the power of revelation and breakthrough released through tongues. Tongues is not empty syllables. It is not a meaningless babble. It is divine communication, rich with mysteries, filled with power. Even when your mind does not understand, your spirit is receiving. The Spirit of God is pouring wisdom into the depths of your being, and in time, it rises up into your understanding. You begin to see situations differently. You begin to discern hidden motives. You begin to understand truths you never knew before. This is why Paul said that when a man prays in tongues, he speaks mysteries, not to men but to God, and those mysteries in God's timing become revelation in your life. And I tell you, beloved, there is nothing like living in that flow. Imagine never being stuck in confusion again. Imagine never being paralyzed by indecision. Imagine walking with such clarity that every step feels ordered by the Lord. That is the life tongues ushers you into. A life where you are led not by your thoughts, but by the Spirit, where you are no longer groping in the dark, but walking in the light of revelation. Do not think for a moment that this is reserved for a select few. This is for every believer who yields. This is for every child of God who opens their heart and tongue to the Spirit's flow. The mysteries of heaven are not locked away from you. They are waiting to be unlocked through your surrender. And when you give yourself to tongues, you will find that doors of revelation open, chains of limitation break, and the supernatural life you once only dreamed of becomes your reality. For when you pray in tongues, you are not only speaking mysteries, you are stepping into revelation and breakthrough that only the Spirit of God can bring. We live in a world where the forces of darkness are always working, where the enemy prowls like a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. The devil does not rest, and his schemes are subtle, his attacks are relentless, and his goal is to steal, to kill, and to destroy. But thanks be to God, He has not left us defenseless. He has clothed us with spiritual armor and armed us with heavenly weapons. And one of the greatest of these weapons is the gift of tongues. When you pray in tongues, you step into a place of authority that shakes the kingdom of darkness. You are not speaking words the enemy can manipulate, nor are you battling with human strength. You are releasing the power of the Spirit, and with every syllable, you are enforcing the victory of Christ. The devil fears a praying believer, but he trembles at a believer who prays in tongues. He can fight against your natural words, he can twist your thoughts, he can throw confusion into your reasoning, but when you pray in tongues, he is utterly powerless. He cannot understand it, he cannot intercept it, He cannot stand against it. It is heaven's coded language, a secret communication line between you and God that no demon can invade. And every time you let that river flow from your spirit, you are advancing against the powers of hell, pulling down strongholds, and pushing back the darkness. Think of it this way: when you pray in tongues, you are aligning yourself with the very strategies of heaven. You may not know the traps the enemy has set. You may not see the snares laid before you, but the Spirit knows. And as you yield your tongue to Him, He prays through you with divine precision. He speaks into the atmosphere words of warfare that dismantle the enemy's plans before they ever reach you. You may not even realize what danger has been diverted, but heaven knows and hell knows. And you walk forward protected, covered, victorious, because the Spirit prayed through you. I have seen people walk under heavy oppression, weighed down by attacks of the enemy, tormented in their minds, bound in their spirits. They tried everything to find freedom, but nothing seemed to break the chains. Yet the moment they began to pray in tongues, the atmosphere shifted, the oppression lifted, the chains began to break. Why? Because tongues is not a natural exercise, it is spiritual warfare. Every word uttered in the Spirit is like a sword in the unseen realm, cutting through darkness, tearing down strongholds, driving back the powers of hell. Some of you have wondered why the enemy fights you so hard when it comes to this gift. He doesn't want you to use it, because he knows it destroys his work. He tries to fill your mind with doubt, telling you it's not real, or that it's unnecessary. But understand this, the very reason he resists it is because he knows the authority it carries. He knows that when you engage in tongues, you are rising up in the Spirit and enforcing Christ's victory over His kingdom. He knows you are placing yourself in the unshakable power of God's will. And oh, what boldness tongues will give you. When you pray in tongues, fear cannot remain. You begin to feel the authority of Christ burning in your spirit. You realize you are not a victim of the enemy's schemes, but a conqueror through Him who loved you. You begin to pray with power, speak with authority, and walk with the confidence that the devil is already defeated. And soon you are no longer hiding from the battle, you are advancing into it, knowing the one within you is greater than the one who is in the world. This is why I say to you, never underestimate this gift. Do not treat tongues as a minor part of your walk with God. It is a mighty weapon of war, a force that dismantles the works of darkness and establishes the reign of Christ in your life. Every time you pray in tongues, you are taking territory in the Spirit. You are tearing down the enemy's lies, and you are declaring the triumph of the cross. For when you pray in tongues, you are not only speaking to God, you are exercising dominion over darkness and enforcing the victory that Christ has already won. The greatest work God desires to do is not merely around you but within you. It is not just about miracles you can see with your eyes or victories you can touch with your hands, but about the transformation of the inner man. God is always after the heart, always shaping the soul, always molding the spirit into the likeness of His Son. And one of the most powerful ways He accomplishes this transformation is through the gift of tongues. When you yield yourself to the Spirit in this way, you are not only speaking a language from heaven, you are being changed by heaven. There are things in us that words cannot reach. There are wounds buried too deep for human speech, desires too tangled for human expression, weaknesses too ingrained for human effort to fix. You may try to discipline your mind. You may try to reform your habits, but true change comes from the Spirit's power, not human striving. And when you pray in tongues, the Spirit is working in the hidden places of your life. While your mouth is speaking mysteries, your inner man is being renewed, strengthened, purified, and aligned with God's will. So many believers live outwardly strong but inwardly weak. They serve, they work, they appear faithful, but deep inside they are tired, weary, and even broken. Tongues is God's answer to that hidden need. For the Word says that when a man prays in an unknown tongue, he edifies himself. That means he builds himself up from the inside out. Just as you cannot see the roots of a tree, but know they must be strong for the tree to stand, so the Spirit builds your roots deep when you pray in tongues. The world may not see it, but soon the fruit will show. Peace where there was once turmoil, joy where there was once heaviness, holiness where there was once compromise. And think of the refreshing that comes with it. Life can leave you dry, people can leave you drained, battles can leave you empty. But tongues is like a river flowing up from within you. Out of your belly shall flow rivers of living water, the Lord said. And those rivers are stirred as you yield to tongues. You may enter prayer feeling exhausted, but as you pray in the Spirit, you feel fresh strength. You may come feeling heavy, but as you let the Spirit speak through you, your soul is lifted. You may begin feeling far from God, but by the time you finish, you are aware of His presence so near. This is the transformation of the inner man. It is not sudden in one moment, though at times it can feel that way. It is a continual process, like the steady rising of the sun, casting light deeper and deeper into your being. Every time you yield your tongue to the Spirit, He is chiseling away at what does not belong. He is refining what needs to shine. He is shaping you into a vessel fit for His glory. And before long, others begin to see it. They notice the calm in your spirit, the strength in your steps, the love in your words. They may not know the secret, but you do. It is the Spirit's work through tongues. The enemy tries to break you from the inside out. He aims at your heart, your mind, your emotions, because he knows if the inner man collapses, the outer life will follow. But God builds you from the inside out, and he does it through his Spirit. Tongues is a vital part of this building. It fortifies your spirit, it protects your soul, it renews your mind. And when the storms come, and they will, you will not fall. You will stand, because your foundation is strong. This is why I urge you not to neglect this gift. It is not just about outward signs and wonders, it is about the inward miracle of being made new day by day. It is about becoming the man or woman God has called you to be, strong in spirit, steadfast in faith, unshakable in trials, radiant with his presence. Tongues is not only your connection to heaven, it is heaven's tool to shape you into Christ's image. For when you pray in tongues, you are not just speaking words of the Spirit, you are being transformed into a living vessel of God's glory. Beloved, we have walked together through the mystery and the power of this heavenly gift, and I tell you with all boldness, it changes everything. Speaking in tongues is not a small matter. It is not a decoration upon your faith. It is the Spirit himself praying through you, strengthening you, building you, and lifting you into the purposes of God. It is your direct line to heaven, your strength in weakness, the fire that ignites your faith, the key to revelation and breakthrough, the weapon of dominion over darkness, and the power that transforms you from the inside out. The world cannot understand it, the enemy cannot stop it, and your own mind cannot measure it. But when you yield to the Spirit in tongues, you step into the supernatural life God intended for his children. Do not neglect it. Do not allow doubt or fear to silence it. This gift is for you. It is heaven's language placed upon your tongue, a river of living water flowing from your spirit. So I call you tonight, open your heart, open your mouth, yield yourself completely to the Spirit of God and let him speak through you. For when you do, you will never again be the same.